The July air was thick as jam, and the stone of the flower pot was warm against my searching fingers. But the key wasn't where it was supposed to be. I'd been watering Mrs. Fitzgerald's petunias for 3 weeks while she visited her daughter in San Francisco, and every Tuesday and Friday, the spare key lived under the third flower pot from the left, the one with the chip on the rim, the one that held the purple petunias she'd grown from seed. But that morning in July, my fingers found only dirt and confused pill bugs. My name's Patricia, though everyone in the neighborhood calls me Patty. I'd lived on Maple Street in Burlington, Vermont for exactly 6 months, long enough to know which dogs barked at strangers and which just wanted belly rubs, long enough to have a favorite booth at the corner cafe. The quiet of my own little house on Maple Street was still more of a hollow echo than a peaceful silence. I hadn't yet felt like I truly belonged. I'd told myself it just takes time to feel like part of a place, but maybe you need something to bind you to it. Mrs. Fitzgerald had been my first real friend here. She'd knocked on my door the day after I moved in, holding a plate of homemade dumplings and wearing a smile that could light up a room. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she'd said. "I'm Eleanor Fitzgerald. I live in the blue house with too many flowers." She wasn't wrong about the flowers. Her yard looked like someone had spilled a rainbow. Roses climbing trellises, sunflowers tall as basketball players, and petunias everywhere. "I used to have a brown thumb," she'd told me once, "killed every plant I touched. Then my husband passed and I needed something to keep my hands busy. Turns out, grief makes an excellent fertilizer." That was Eleanor, funny and sad and wise all at once. Standing on her porch that morning, I checked under every pot, lifted the welcome mat, ran my fingers along the door frame. No key. Maybe she'd moved it. Maybe she'd forgotten to put it back after her last watering. But Eleanor never forgot things. At 78, her memory was sharper than mine. I tried calling her cell, straight to voicemail. Not unusual. She was terrible with technology. Probably forgot to charge it again. The petunias looked desperately thirsty. Their purple heads drooped, a silent, thirsty plea I couldn't ignore. Leaving them felt like a betrayal of the small trust Eleanor had placed in me. That's when my eyes landed on the kitchen window, open about 6 inches, just enough for a breeze, or a worried neighbor who really needed to water some flowers. I know, breaking into someone's house is wrong, even with good intentions, even for petunias, but I told myself I'd water the plants, check that everything was okay, and leave. 5 minutes, 10 tops. The window screen popped out easier than expected. I climbed through less gracefully than expected, landing in Eleanor's kitchen sink with a crash that probably woke the whole neighborhood. "Just watering plants," I muttered to myself. Not a burglar, definitely not a burglar. Eleanor's kitchen smelled like cinnamon and old books. Everything in its place. Dishes drying in the rack, bananas turning brown in a bowl. Normal. Except a teacup sat on the counter, still half full. The clock ticked in the silence, and the only other sound was the faint drip of tea from the rim onto the counter. Eleanor never left dishes out. Never. I watered the petunias first. Priorities. But that teacup bothered me, pulled at my mind like a loose thread. "Just a quick look around," I told myself. "Make sure everything's okay." The living room was Eleanor perfect. Doilies on every surface, photos covering the walls. Her late husband, Robert, smiling from a dozen frames. Their children, grandchildren. A whole life in photographs. But her reading chair wasn't right. The Afghan she always kept folded on the arm was crumpled on the floor. Her bookmark, a painted wooden cardinal from her granddaughter, lay on the carpet instead of in her current mystery novel. My chest tightened. Something was wrong. "Mrs. Fitzgerald?" I called out. "Eleanor, it's Patty. I came to water your flowers." Silence. I found her in the bedroom, on the floor beside her bed. Still in her nightgown, still breathing, thank God. But unconscious. a purple bruise blooming on her temple. "Eleanor!" I dropped to my knees beside her, checked her pulse, strong and steady. "Can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered, opened, those sharp brown eyes struggling to focus. "Patty?" Her voice came out scratchy, confused. "What? How did you—" "Don't move, I'm calling 911. "No!" She grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "No ambulance, please, I'm fine." "You're on the floor, you have a head injury, you're not fine." I fell. Silly of me, trying to reach something on the high shelf. She struggled to sit up. I helped her lean against the bed. "Really, dear, I'm okay. Just embarrassed." "Eleanor, you need to see a doctor." "What I need is some tea and maybe an aspirin, but no fuss. Promise me." I wanted to argue, should have argued, but something in her eyes stopped me. Fear? Not of doctors, something else. "Fine. But I'm staying with you. And if you get worse, I'm calling an ambulance whether you like it or not." She smiled weakly. "You're a good neighbor, Patty." I helped her to the living room, made tea, found aspirin, cleaned the bump on her head. The whole time she kept insisting she'd fallen reaching for a box of photos. Wanted to find some pictures of Robert for my daughter. Got dizzy. It sounded reasonable, except, "Eleanor, where's your spare key?" She blinked. "Under the flower pot, third from the left." "It wasn't there this morning." Her face went pale, paler than it already was. That's impossible." "When did you last see it?" "Sunday before I left. I always check." Her hands started shaking, tea sloshed in her cup. "Someone's been in my house." That's when I noticed other things, little things. The way her jewelry box had been moved slightly on the dresser, how the pictures on the mantel weren't quite straight, the back door, unlocked when Eleanor always kept it bolted. "We should call the police," I said, but no! Too quick, too sharp. "I mean, nothing's missing. I probably just forgot to lock up. Old age, you know." But Eleanor didn't forget things, and she was scared. Really scared. "What's going on?" I asked gently. "What aren't you telling me?" She was quiet for a long moment, staring into her tea like it might hold answers. "There's something hidden in this house," she said finally. "Something Robert left. I thought I was the only one who knew about it, but lately, I felt like someone's been watching, following me, and now—" "Now someone broke in looking for it?" She nodded. "But they didn't find it. If they had, they wouldn't have come back." "Come back? This has happened before?" "Little things. Items moved. Doors I locked found open. I thought I was imagining it. Getting paranoid in my old age. But the key missing, someone took it. Someone who's been watching. Who knew where I kept it?" A chill ran down my spine. "Eleanor, what did Robert hide?" She shook her head. "Better you don't know. Safer." "Not safe enough. You're hurt. Someone's breaking into your house. We need help." Who would believe me? An old woman claiming someone's after her dead husband's things. They'd think I'm senile. She had a point, but still. "Then let me help." "I believe you." She studied me. This woman who'd become my friend over dumplings and gardening tips. Who'd taught me which perennials would survive Vermont winters. Who'd listened without judgment when I'd cried about my divorce and starting over. "Okay," she said finally. "But first, we need to get it. Move it somewhere safe, before they come back." Eleanor led me to the basement, moving slowly, holding the railing tight. The basement was exactly what you'd expect. Dusty boxes, holiday decorations, the detritus of a long life. "Robert was a locksmith," she said, running her hand along the stone wall. "Best in Burlington. Could open anything. Make keys for locks that didn't exist yet. He was an artist, really." She pressed a stone that looked exactly like every other stone. It shifted. Behind it, a small metal door, a hidden safe built right into the foundation. "He installed this in 1962. Said every locksmith needed a lock no one could pick." She spun the combination. her fingers sure despite everything. The door opened. Inside, a wooden box. She pulled it out carefully, reverently. Robert made keys for everyone, banks, businesses, government buildings, but he had a rule: never keep copies, never compromise security. He was trusted because he was trustworthy. She opened the box. Inside, dozens of keys, all different, all labeled with tiny tags in Robert's precise handwriting. "So why keep these?" I asked. Eleanor's smile was sad. "Because near the end, when the cancer was bad, he got confused, started making duplicates, hiding them. He was convinced someone was going to need them someday, that there were doors that needed opening, secrets that needed revealing." I looked at the keys, ordinary-looking things, but the labels— First National Bank, Mayor's Office, Police Evidence Room. "Oh my God, Eleanor, these are—" "Dangerous, I know. I should have destroyed them years ago, but they were Robert's. His mind's last project. I couldn't." "Someone knows about these. Someone wants them. The question is who, and why now, after all these years?" That's when we heard it. The front door, opening. Eleanor grabbed my arm. "They're back." Footsteps, slow, deliberate, not trying to be quiet. The basement air seemed to tighten around us. A stair creaked, the third one from the top, the one that always groaned under weight. Then another. He was coming down. "Mrs. Fitzgerald?" A man's voice, smooth and neighborly, the kind of voice you'd trust without a second thought. "I know you're home, saw your neighbor's car outside." Eleanor went rigid, then seemed to force herself to relax. "It's Gary, from next door." Gary Morrison, the guy with the perfect lawn and the loud motorcycle, always friendly, always helpful, always watching. "Should we answer?" I whispered. Eleanor shook her head, pointed to a window high on the basement wall. "Can you fit?" "What about you?" "I'll be fine. Take the box. Get it somewhere safe. Go." "I'm not leaving you. Patricia." First time she'd used my full name. "Please, I trusted you with this. Now trust me." The footsteps were moving through the house, getting closer. I took the box, climbed onto a storage shelf, squeezed through the window that was definitely not designed for a 42-year-old woman who liked Eleanor's dumplings too much. I landed in the rose bushes. Of course. Scratched and dirty, clutching a box of impossible keys, I did the only thing I could think of. I ran. I made it to my house, locked the door, pulled the curtains, sat at my kitchen table staring at a box that could apparently unlock half of Burlington's secrets. What now? Call the police? "Hello, I'd like to report that I broke into my neighbor's house and stole a box of illegally duplicated keys." Call Eleanor? But Gary would be there. Gary who had a key. Gary who'd been watching. I opened the box again, studied the keys. So many. Too many. And then I saw it. A key different from the others. Newer. The tag read simply, "For Patricia." My hands shook as I picked it up. Robert had been dead for 5 years. How could he have a key for me? Unless— I looked closer at the tag. The handwriting was different, shakier. Eleanor's handwriting. The key fit my back door. The lock I'd changed myself when I moved in. The lock only I had keys for. Inside my house, taped under my kitchen junk drawer, was an envelope. Patricia, written across it in Eleanor's careful script. Inside, a letter. "Dear Patty, if you're reading this, then my paranoia wasn't paranoia after all. I'm sorry to involve you, but I needed someone I could trust. Someone new to the neighborhood. Someone they wouldn't suspect. The keys aren't what they seem." Yes, Robert made them in his confusion. But I've spent 5 years changing them, updating them, adding to the collection. Because Robert was right. There are doors that need opening, secrets that need revealing. Gary Morrison isn't just my neighbor. He's been using his position at City Hall to sell information, building permits to developers, zoning, changes to the highest bidder. I have proof. In a safety deposit box at First National. The key is labeled Truth. I've been gathering evidence for months, following paper trails Robert accidentally uncovered. But Gary figured out what I was doing. He's been searching for the keys, for the evidence. I'm not brave, Patty. I'm just old and angry and tired of watching this neighborhood I love get sold piece by piece. But you're brave. You climbed through a window to save my petunias. You stayed with me when I was hurt. You're exactly who I hoped you'd be. The choice is yours. Destroy the keys and forget this happened. Or finish what Robert started. What I continued. Your friend always, Eleanor. Brave. The word echoed in the quiet of my kitchen. I didn't feel brave. I felt like an accidental accomplice, a clumsy burglar who landed in a sink. But I also thought of Eleanor on the floor, her fierce grip on my wrist, her determination to protect her home, her neighborhood. Bravery wasn't about not being scared. Maybe it was about doing something anyway. I sat there for a long time, thinking about choices, about starting over, about the difference between minding your own business and being a good neighbor. Then I picked up my phone. Janet, it's Patty from book club. Listen, you still dating that investigative reporter? I might have a story for him. The next few hours were a blur. Phone calls, meetings, a safety deposit box opened with a key that shouldn't exist, documents photographed, evidence preserved. By evening, Gary Morrison was in custody. Turns out, Eleanor had been meticulous. 5 years of evidence, every bribe, every kickback, every piece of the neighborhood sold to line his pockets. I found Eleanor at the hospital. I'd called an ambulance after all once Gary was arrested. She was sitting up in bed, looking annoyed at all the fuss, but secretly pleased. My petunias, she asked. Watered, thoroughly. The keys? With the FBI. Apparently some of Robert's late-night key-making uncovered a federal case from the 70s. They were very interested. And Gary? Going away for a long time? She smiled, reached for my hand. I knew I picked the right neighbor? Eleanor, how did you get a key to my back door? Her eyes twinkled. Robert taught me a few things, just in case. Though I must say climbing through windows at your age, very undignified. Says the woman running a 5-year undercover investigation from her flower garden. Well, I needed a hobby. Petunias only take up so much time. Eleanor came home a week later. I picked her up from the hospital, helped her inside, made tea, the familiar ritual of friendship resumed. But something had changed. The neighborhood felt different, safer, more connected. Turns out Gary hadn't been the only one watching. Lots of us had noticed things, felt things were wrong. We just hadn't known what to do about it. Now we did. We talked. We watched out for each other. We paid attention. Eleanor started a neighborhood watch. But really, she told me, it's just an excuse for coffee and gossip. The watching out part? We were already doing that. She was right. We were. The key went back under the flower pot, third from the left, the one with the chip on the rim. But now, lots of people knew where it was, in case of emergencies, in case someone needed to water the petunias, in case a neighbor needed help. You know, Eleanor said one evening as we sat on her porch watching the sunset paint the sky purple as her flowers. Robert always said keys weren't about keeping people out. They were about letting the right people in. Smart man. He was, but not as smart as the wife who finished what he started. She winked. With a little help from a friend who's very good at climbing through windows. Don't remind me, I still have thorn scars from your rose bushes. Battle wounds. Wear them proudly. I did. I do. Because that's the thing about keys, about neighbors, about starting over in a new place. You think you're looking for a way in, but really you're looking for people who'll trust you with theirs. Eleanor trusted me with her keys, her secrets, her safety. And in return, she gave me something I hadn't even known I was looking for. A home, a purpose, a friend who grew more than just petunias. She grew community, one key at a time, one neighbor at a time, one small act of trust that bloomed into something beautiful. The petunias are thriving, by the way. Purple faces turned up to the sun, drinking in the rain, growing strong in soil enriched by friendship and fermented by just the right amount of righteous anger. Eleanor says they've never looked better. I think she's right. But then, Eleanor usually is. That's why I always know where to find the key. Third flower pot from the left, the one with the chip on the rim, right where it belongs, right where we all belong, home.